All right, so if this is the fantasy endgame, what could be more of an endgame strategy than league winners? I mean, picking a player that could single handedly help carry your team all the way to a championship. Yeah, I know it's not always that simple. Although, if you think about it, how many teams that won it all last year did it with Shohei Ohtani on the roster? So, while it'll definitely take a lot more than just one player, and it'll definitely take staying involved throughout the season and making those smart moves, let's start with some hitters that could help take you a very long way towards winning it all. And the best part is that you don't have to take any of them with a first round pick. So my first league winning pick is just outside that first round ADP, right now 15 overall. It's time to just officially plant the flag here. Vlad Guerrero Jr., AL MVP. Now, that's not a very big stretch after coming off a monster season last year, among the best in terms of batting average, supported by an extremely elite expected batting average. This is nothing new. He's always had amazing plate discipline. He's got that power, but that's what has not made him really a league winning type of player is that the power has been good, but not great, right? Does he have the 60 home run upside of Aaron Judge? No, maybe not. And is he going to steal bases? No, definitely not. But I'll tell you what I think he could do is hit 40, 45. Look, he could get even up to 50 home runs. And that's not a stretch because he's gotten close because in 2021, just his first full season in the majors, he hit 48. And nothing has changed for him in terms of context. I mean, he's on the same team, same home park, and all that. We know he is capable of getting up to the 50 homer threshold. And that batting average, I'll just keep saying it nowadays, it's more important than home run totals. It's easier to make up homers here and there, elsewhere in the draft, during the season, streaming, etc. So we're talking about a player who had a 323 batting average last year, led by a number one ranked expected batting average at 321, better than Juan Soto, better than anyone out there. And yeah, that right there makes him worth a first round pick. The power totals, I do think will jump up. And some people have asked me, let's say on live streams, why? Why this year? What's the difference? Well, it's a couple of little things, but things that do matter. First of all, he is now, after being already in the majors for a few years, and we forget how young he was when he debuted, he's just now entering what we would consider prime age at 25 years old. But then there's also the fact that it's a contract year. And yeah, we've seen that that does matter. Guys who perform heading into free agency versus after getting the bag. I mean, it's already been said publicly he's going to become a free agent this offseason. The Jay is not extending him, not going to talk about it. And so, yeah, he's got a lot to play for. And the other thing that I love about Vlad is he's going to be out there for the entire season. He's done it every year. And now, again, since 2020, he's played in at least 156 games every season. Even in 2020, the short season, he played all 60 games. And so while I feel like this is the highest floor pick you could possibly make in the first 15 to 20 picks, maybe Jose Ramirez could be in there in the conversation as well. And yeah, he does get you steals, but I feel like the ceiling is higher if that power finally does jump up. And the next hitter I think could just demolish expectations and be a league winner in fantasy is Jackson Churio. There were higher hopes for him last year heading into his rookie year. The first 2 months really was just disappointment. Didn't hit for average, just very little in terms of counting stats. And so it looked like he was not ready for prime time. And then all of a sudden, it clicked. Hit 315 in June, 317 in July, 321 in August. Put together a slash line in second half of 310, 363, 552, and finished the season with 21 home runs and 22 stolen bases. But again, focus on the fact that that's without doing hardly any of that damage in the first 2 months of the season. So can we see somebody who contributes in an elite fashion in all five categories? I mean, we've kind of already seen it. Can hit in the 300s, which nowadays, again, that's going to be among the league leaders if he does it over the full course of the season. Why can't he get to 30-30 this year? Runs, RBIs for the top of a pretty good Brewers lineup? Absolutely. So I'll tell you what, you do have to spend, let's say, a second round pick to get Churio. I'm willing to do that and to take him over guys that are now usually late first, early second round picks like Corbin Carroll and Julio Rodriguez because he has just as much power and speed upside as both those guys, but I think he's going to hit for a better average. All right, let's get a little more risky here. Magic 8 Ball. Which Cody Bellinger will we get this year? Ask again later. Oh, look, it's always a surprise. We don't know exactly which belly we're going to get. And now going to the Yankees, I guess it's a good thing. I mean, the Cubs were a pretty good offense, and they did pick up steam towards the second half of last year. Bellinger himself was a little uneven, I guess. There were some highs and some lows, just like his entire career. Like, look, I don't think we're getting MVP level Bellinger back ever again. I mean, it's hard to replicate that kind of season. And he is going to a good situation in general. I've heard it discussed already about the home runs, that with the shorter right field porch there, his expected home runs last year were a lot higher in Yankee Stadium as opposed to Wrigley Field. He wound up with a fairly mediocre 18 homers last season, but if he were playing in Yankee Stadium, of course, you don't ever play all your games at home, but bear with me here, hypothetically, would have gone for 24 home runs, and that would have been the third highest total out of any ballpark in the majors. So yeah, that should help him just the move to New York. What about the speed? Only 9 stolen bases last season, a big drop from 20 the year before. Well, I think part of that is just Craig Counsell in Chicago. First half of the year, they just weren't running at all. Not very many opportunities. New York isn't the most steal happy team there is, but I think he'll get a few more chances. And his sprint speed is still fine, ranks in the 77th percentile. That figure has held steady for the last 4 seasons for him. Where we see the real ups and downs, it's batting average. Back in 2019, his MVP season, 100th percentile in XBA. Next season, 85th percentile. Somehow managed to go the next 2 years to the 3rd and 6th percentile. Basically from the best hitter in the league to one of the worst. And in 23, rebounded to the 74th percentile, and then last year down to 36th percentile. So this is the roller coaster you get on when you grab Cody Bellinger. Will Yankee Stadium fix all his problems? No. But sometimes, just like 2 years ago, a change of scenery can do it, motivation can do it. Alec Bellinger still has that same elite plate discipline, strikeout rate super low. He's got a good eye. It's just, whatever it is that makes him fluctuate randomly from season to season, month to month. The biggest thing that I've noticed digging into the data, which again is it's hard to explain, his run value versus the four seam fastball went from -1 in 2023 to +7 in 2024. He hit fastballs a lot better. So, how did his batting average go down? Well, against the slider, went from +11 run value in 2023 to -6. How did he get so much better against one pitch and worse against another, than which he had previously been elite? Again, you tell me. So Bellinger is definitely far from a sure thing, but look, I'll just say that all the skills are still intact. Health is not really a concern. In a good offense, in a good park, should be a better situation for him. I mean, if it all clicks, you possibly could have a guy who's worth at least a top 20 pick, and you can get him now closer to pick 90. Now, on the other hand, a left-handed hitter who's just scratching the surface and maybe takes a step forward to become an elite hitter, Riley Green of the Tigers. Now, Green has been a high-end prospect for his offensive ability for a while, and we've seen it start to come together, but hasn't quite all clicked. And interestingly enough, even though he grades out at 60 in terms of hit tool and power, we're starting to see the power come along more so than the hit tool. He had 24 home runs last year despite playing in Detroit, and yet the batting average was actually just pretty low. 24 home runs, 74 RBIs, again, pretty good, but the average only a 253 expected batting average. Not only does he have that advanced hit tool that just seems to have not fully developed yet. The previous season, 2023, his XBA was 289. And the change here is it's pretty simple to explain. His line drive rate from one year to the next dropped, while his fly ball rate jumped because his launch angle almost doubled. And so whether this was intentional to try to get more power, maybe that's the case. He's trying to drive the ball more, although his pull rate did not increase. It actually took a slight decline. So I don't know that he was starting to sell out for power necessarily. This is just an adjustment that has been made and will maybe need to be tweaked again. It's not like he's been fly ball or pull happy, but if he can get back to hitting a few more line drives, he can still get that 20 to 25 home run range, but with a batting average hopefully closer to 280. Maybe even 290. Now, unlike Bellinger, you're not getting steals here, maybe a handful at most, but I feel like the RBI total will jump once that batting average jumps as well. And so across those 4 categories, you're getting high-end production from a guy that you can get outside the top 100. So the term league winner might feel a little aggressive for a player like this who maybe doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but again, getting somebody with such a high floor and can help you when you're grabbing your first, second outfielder so late, I think that's a huge advantage. All right, now let's get back to rolling the dice again. If only if Royce Lewis could stay healthy for a full season, what would that look like? Well, I can actually kind of tell you because over parts of the last 3 seasons, the parts where he's actually been able to play, he has basically the equivalent of a full season's worth of plate appearances. And here's what he has done: 33 home runs, 104 RBIs, 81 runs scored, 6 stolen bases, and a slash line of 268, 327, 497. Now, while those don't jump out as league winning numbers, again, this is with so many disruptions, recoveries, and some slumps that have come after his hot streaks. I remember last year when he first came off the IL after, yes, getting injured on opening day, after hitting a home run. This is the Royce Lewis experience. Just be ready for it. But when he came back, he was one of the hottest hitters. I mean, he was hitting home run almost every single day. And then understandably, he cooled down, but he admitted later that part of it was he was just trying to stay healthy, trying to not overexert himself, which is sad for somebody as young as he is. But look, if he can actually do it and manage to get something close to a full season, we could see a 40 home run season. We could see elite batting average. It's in there. He just has to stay intact. Some people might point out that he's more just a power bat. Don't know if he can hit for average that high. What I noticed last year is that his average against fastballs from the previous season dropped from 343 to 203. That's a huge drop. And to me, that tells of a timing issue. And that, again, has to do with those disruptions, just the fact that he's in and out of the lineup so often. I think he can definitely hit for average along with that power. And since we're feeling optimistic, let's go ahead and just roll the dice again. A shortstop who has barely played for the last 3 seasons as well. It's Trevor Story. I almost can't believe that I'm in on Story this year because, again, this is like the older version of Royce Lewis, a guy who has not stayed healthy. And this is also the opposite of Vlad, a guy who got paid and after his contract has basically just struggled not only to stay in the lineup, but to produce. Got a 6-year, $140 million deal with Boston and has barely played. And in fact, same situation as Lewis. Over the past 3 seasons, he's basically put together a season's worth of production. In fact, 163 games, 670 plate appearances, and over that time, he's only hit 232, 21 home runs, 90 RBIs. Now, he has stolen 29 bases in that span, and it's interesting that the speed has not disappeared for a guy who's had so many injuries. So I kind of get the feeling that this is sort of a make or break season for Story, whether he's staying in Boston or not, because he's got to do something to earn that contract. And he's being a little bit smarter about maintaining his athleticism. And I feel like he knows Christian Campbell is there, Marcelo Mayer is there. I mean, there's so much competition now in Boston. It's put up or shut up time for him. That doesn't guarantee that he stays off the IL, but I feel like the skills are still there. He's got power. He's still shown that he will steal bases. So I'm willing to take a chance with basically my last round pick that, man, if he actually stays in that Boston lineup, could pay off huge. Now, if you want to get a little deeper and look for some young players that could break out this season, we talked about breakout hitters. You can check that one out right here.